In order to more properly understand the relationship between the mark, writing, and the garments of skin, we actually need to take a little detour into the question of the supplement. So when Moses comes down from the mountain now, from this new beginning, this new origin, he must wear a veil to cover his face because of its glory for having encountered God. Now, remember that Adam and Eve, when they came down the mountain of paradise, also had to wear a veil, had to wear garments of skin to protect themselves. Now, in the case of Moses, this veil is also the supplement. It's a more subtle version of the garments of skin, which were given to Adam and Eve when they were chased down the mountain of paradise, as I just said. But this supplement is not only in the veil. In fact, the veil is in many ways the written law itself. And not only the law, but the earthly tabernacle built by Bezalel and Aholiab, which has its own hierarchy of veils, which are leading into the inner holy place. So this process of supplementarity, of these adding of veils, of these coming down with a written text, a series of veils which lead to the Holy of Holies, if it's not taken as a good in itself, let's say as a means to increase one's power and pride like Cain did, it can actually become the very procession of layers from the divine to man. It's a reframing of the supplement towards participation. It's actually showing the secret of what it can be in God. So the veils in this case, the writing of the law, always both conceals and reveals. It covers and shows, like a series of veils reminding you that you are not in the Holy of Holies. And so the law, being a good, is nonetheless an answer to the fall, like writing and city building. So this exterior is insufficient in itself, right? It's good if it's connected to God, but it's insufficient in itself. And in some ways, it can be dangerous. It's dangerous if it's not taken as a veil which covers something behind it, which connects it to something behind it, something inside this ontological hierarchy which recedes into the heart or recedes into the Holy of Holies or recedes up into the mountain where we encounter God. Recedes ultimately, we could say, to the divine spark behind reality, which is God himself. And so, as a form of manifestation of God, then it becomes a good. So all must begin in what is invisible and above, which is what spirit is. A spirit comes from heaven, comes from the center, the heart, or the place where exteriority disappears in the Holy of Holies and in this hidden place. God again may please you to prosper Zion, to build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will delight in the sacrifices of righteousness. So recovering the spirit, that which is invisible, and the center, that which is the source and the origin of multiplicity, lead then to multiplicity, to their exteriorization. The center gives place to the margin, the walls of the city that are built up. And always remember that the city is the fruit of Cain. But here it's seen as built by God himself. The new Jerusalem, the heavenly Jerusalem, descends from heaven. It is built by God himself, we could say. Once the heart is entered, the walls get built, then the righteous will offer sacrifice, because the outward gesture will be completely connected to the inner movement. So let's be clear, the outer gestures are the same. The garments of skin on the tabernacle are of the same nature as the garments of skin on Adam and Eve. Yet they are transmuted into a participation in glory by their connection to the invisible center and reason for things. The writing on the tablets of the law are a continuation of the mark of Cain. Yet now they carry the will of God into the particular through multiple prescriptions. And understanding this seriously can help us understand so much of what seems ambiguous in biblical symbolism. The profound duality of these layers and supplements makes this symbolism difficult to hold in our mind. Even the removing of a veil, removing of this exteriority in a certain way, can also be a veiling. That is, it can also be an exterior sign or mark of something which is happening at a more primordial level. And so circumcision is precisely the removing of the garments of skin, remember? Removing a layer of skin to expose that which is hidden underneath. In scripture, this gesture is called a mark. Actually, it's a mark or a sign, but it's the same word which is used to describe the mark of Cain. But now this mark is one which makes one enter into a covenant with God, marks one as part of the chosen people by removing the outer skin. But this gesture, which is actually a removing of the outside, has to be a kind of exterior action, a kind of pharmacon, an outer gesture meant to reflect an even more inner reality, which is what? Which is the circumcision of the heart, right? The center. This is the nature of the duality of inside and outside. And all of this is already there in the story of Cain, because the removing of Cain, from the point of view of Cain, is an adding of layers as he gets a mark, as he increases the garments of skin into city building. So he is adding layers onto himself. But from the point of view of God, or from the point of view of Adam, the casting away of Cain is something like a circumcision. Cain has been cut off. He has become the scapegoat. He's become something akin to the foreskin, which is removed to keep the line of Seth, the line of Adam, pure and holy. So obviously there would be a lot more to say on this. If one looks at the mark of Cain as an aspect of these garments of skin, as this supplement, and with a little help from Plato's use of the term pharmacon, we see the mark as instigating several things. We see the mark as instigating a form of official identification, a way to identify Cain. But there's also a medical, magical aspect to the mark in the most general sense of a seal or a talisman, or also as a remedy, which is at the same time a poison. So looking at this story of Cain as the beginning of a pattern, we can then understand the mark of the beast as the ultimate mark of inclusion and exclusion. That is, without the mark, one will be excluded from even the basic participation in civilization. Buying, selling, just being part of human civilization. But the mark will at the same time cut one from the face of God, as is mentioned in Genesis for Cain. But in the image of the mark and the consequences of Cain's fall, there are in fact two possibilities of the supplement which appear, and which is seen in Revelation. One that remembers and one that forgets. One that is connected and one that is disconnected. Cain's story will feed the origin of the two final images in Scripture, surprisingly enough. The image of the whore and the beast in Revelation, who come out from below, who come out from the sea, but also the image of the New Jerusalem, which comes down from heaven. We could call it the final city, with all that implies, sharing an origin with the city of Cain, though covering and fulfilling the consequences of Cain's transgression to its glorious resolution by God himself. There's a hint, interestingly enough, of how this problem of the supplement can be resolved, also found in Plato's Phaedrus dialogue. He says, "Give me beauty in the inward soul, and may the outward and inward man be at one." It is in fact the unity of the inner and outer, which is not only the root of symbolism, but also the solution to the problem of layers. On earth as it is in heaven. We ask God to make it on earth as it is in heaven. This is exactly what Socrates is expressing, but now from the heart, the center, to the periphery, rather than from above and below. But these two are very much akin to each other. Phaedrus answers with another version of the solution to the supplement. We could say a mirror of the first. He says to Socrates, "Ask the same for me, for friends should have all things in common. It is in fact through communion of the particulars that the whole becomes something true. It is by coming together, both within ourselves, but also with those around us, that all our intentions and our exterior forms line up to become a crown of glory."